Namaste. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 causes of disease from the Ayurvedic perspective. Now, these 3 causes of disease are written down in the Charaka Samhita. That's one of the ancient textbooks that I was telling you about in a previous video. So within the Charaka Samhita, this is volumes and volumes of information, and Charaka speaks about these 3 main causes that will disturb and create dis-ease in the organism. So the first one is the unwholesome conjunction of the senses with the objects of their affection. Let me say that again. The unwholesome conjunction of the senses with the objects of their affection. So let's translate that, because a lot of this is very ancient. It's written down thousands of years ago, so it's a little bit like Shakespeare, written in a way where we're like, what? Sounds maybe a little bit poetic. So the unwholesome conjunction of the senses, meaning we have our 5 senses, and we also have objects of our affection. We have things that we crave, things that we desire. Some of those things might pull us further out of our balance, and perhaps some of those things help us come into our harmonious state, our vertical. But deciphering, which of those things that we're doing out of, perhaps it's out of boredom. I'm thinking right now of people that struggle with emotional eating. So that unwholesome conjunction of the senses, maybe they see something in the grocery store where they're like, oh, I really want that. Or maybe at home in their cupboards, they've got Doritos and muffins and things that aren't really what may be of highest support to bringing them into balance. But there's a craving, there's a desire, there's a disturbance internally. Maybe it's boredom, maybe it's anger, maybe it's frustration, maybe it's overwhelm and stress that might lead someone to go and eat out of emotional reasons. So the reaching for something, that craving for the taste, can come from a deeper disturbance of dissatisfaction, of overwhelm, of stress. And all our 5 senses can be used for either healing, or the shadow side of that is that we will go further out of balance. So let's break this down. For example, taste. In Ayurveda, we look at diet and herbs a lot. We look at, what is the appropriate food choices for the individual, determined by their prakruti, their constitution at conception, their vikruti, their current state, their age, time of life that they're in, the season, the location, what's the environment that they're living in, and the climate. All of these things to consider when understanding what to eat. And then we also have herbs, and in Ayurveda we use herbs as supplementary medicine. And we can use herbs in our cooking and use our cooking and our food as medicine in its own right. And when we're looking at preparing a herbal formula for a client, there are many things to consider. So we're not just thinking, oh, well, this client has, an issue with their liver, so I'm going to figure out what herb is good for the liver and give them that. It's much more complex than that. We have to understand the properties of the individual, the properties of the herb or the food or the medicine, and what is the alchemy? What is the effect as these things come together, and what happens when those chemicals of the herb, of the food, of the mental chemicals, the emotional chemicals all come together? What will be the effect? So cause and effect, and we need to understand the qualities or the gunas and the properties of the substances and how they interface with our substances mentally, physically, and emotionally and energetically. So we have taste, one of the senses that we can bring balance to in our life through proper choice of food, and if we need, of herbal medicine. We have touch. So in Ayurveda, we have abhyanga, where we massage warm oil into the skin, and we choose the oil appropriate to the constitution. We choose sesame oil, typically if someone needs grounding and warming, someone of vata nature. We might choose coconut oil for someone that is more heated, someone of pitta nature. And we might choose a lighter oil like sunflower oil if someone is of kapha nature, or mustard oil, but mustard oil is a little smelly, so many people don't like to use that. So we understand, oh, everyone's different and everyone needs something different. And how can we feed ourselves through these senses? So Ayurvedic oil massage, this can be done by yourself. And this can also be done if you find a trained practitioner. It's divine experience to receive an Abhyanga massage. You can also use this to oil the soles of your feet at night to help bring all of that mental energy that gets caught up here, all the prana that moves upwards, and ground it down into the soles of the feet. This will help with a good night's sleep. We also have a protocol called Marma therapy in Ayurveda, and there's 107 points, doorways into consciousness essentially on the physical body that take us into healing these different systems, organs, and bringing balance to the doshas. So this is called Marma therapy. Again, hands-on therapy like Abhyanga that can bring great healing to the body through touch. Now, we can also harm through all of the five senses as well, right? So taste, we know with our food choices, we can harm ourselves. Also touch, if we have inappropriate touch, if we have touch that feels violent or aggressive or unsavory to us. And sometimes you can even just get close to somebody on the street and maybe they don't touch you, but there's just a feeling of like, I don't want to be close to that person. Or conversely, I want to be really close to that person, however it may be. So touch and how you touch your own self. So when you're massaging your own body, what is your awareness? What are the thoughts that are going through your mind as you give yourself an oil massage? Can you bring loving thoughts of gratitude to the body as you rub the oil in? Thoughts of appreciation, thoughts of like, wow, magnificent body. Look at how far you've got me. This is amazing. You've carried me through this life. You wake up in the morning, you digest, you eliminate all of these things this miraculous body is doing without our having to think about it. And then we have sight. So we have something called Chromatherapy, which is color therapy essentially, using color to bring healing, or again, can also take us out of balance too. Chromatherapy might be used, there's special places that you can go where people have machines that are essentially chromatherapy machines, light machines. You can also drink water out of a blue glass bottle, for example, which would be pacifying to pitta, because blue is cooling and it's going to be good. It was even used to babies that had jaundice as children or as tiny infants would have been given their water or their fluids out of a blue bottle, or use blue light therapy to help with the jaundice. We can do this with our clothing. You know, what colors are we choosing to wear to represent us, to walk around in all day? Are we always choosing black? And is that color, helping you kind of be absorbed into nothing and hide? Or what are you choosing for the colors that you surround yourself with, that you wear, the colors of your walls, the colors of everything? So this might seem a little subtle and maybe a little bit woo-woo, but it's very powerful. We can even look at the colors of the food on our plate. Is everything white? Is it bread? Is it potatoes? Is it starch? Do we have an array? Do we have a rainbow array of the colors of foods that we're consuming so that we have a greater diversity? So chromatherapy is important to do. Just look around and see, okay, what am I surrounding myself with? Advertisers know this very well. So McDonald's has the golden arch, and then red and yellow are McDonald's colors. Red and yellow are colors that increase appetite, that kind of put us on high alert. And McDonald's knew this in their advertising and marketing, right? They want to get you in. They want your appetite to be stirred. They want that Manipur chakra to be hungry as you come in and to be stoked. They want you to be kind of energized and dysregulated in the nervous system, essentially, so that you come in and you buy the Big Mac and the French fries and the ice cream. So marketing knows chromatherapy very well, and color. So maybe there's a company that wants to create a soothing feel to their company, and they might choose muted colors of like pastels or calming colors. So this we know intuitively But when we consciously choose into that, that's going to take things to a whole new level for you. In Ayurveda, we work a lot with sound therapy. So mantra, chanting, singing even. Sound is vibration. Vibration is very subtle and it affects Akash, the etheric element. And we exist in ether, we exist in space, and all communication happens in space. So cell phone signal, for example, is happening through space. We can't see the cell phone signal, we can't see the radio wave, but we know that this is working, this is happening. When we see that much of our existence, and now quantum science is proving that on a cellular structure, most of that cell is composed of space, of nothingness. And what moves through space, that communication, that vibration, has a very profound impact on us mentally and emotionally. So what I'm saying is that the vibration in which you listen to through music, through song, maybe you're listening to the nightly news every evening and that's got a certain vibration, a certain quality to it. Maybe you like to watch horror movies that carry a certain vibration, or maybe you like to listen to uplifting music that also carries a certain vibration. And then our inner landscape of our thoughts carry a vibration. And this is the most powerful and important piece to get here, is that your thoughts have power, that they are a vibration, that they are affecting every single cell of your body moment to moment. And until you become more conscious of what are those thoughts? What are the subconscious thoughts? What are the things that kind of slip by my awareness because they just seem to be happening? And are those thought patterns, are those vrittis, we call it in yoga, are they whirlpooling? Is that becoming a spiraling, circling habit of thought that is often, in the negative, taking you in that downward spiral? And how can you use Akash, use that space and use vibration to uplift you, to increase vitality, to regenerate you, to allow you a different perspective of yourself and of reality, a more enlivened, luminous perspective? That's what I would choose anyway. So looking at that is really essential. And then we have smell. And smell we can affect, again, both positively and negatively. If we have smells that are putrid, say we have rotting food in our fridge, that smell is going to have, we'll have an aversion towards that. We can also use aromatherapy and certain scents to bring balance and healing to the doshas, to our mood, to influence how we're feeling. So smell is very powerful. And we've all had an experience of smells, probably both in the positive and the negative. Maybe you have a smell connected to a memory of walking into your grandma's house and she's baking apple pie, or a smell that takes you right back to something. Maybe there's a smell of something that you have an aversion to, again, takes you right back to a memory. So we know this smell is incredibly powerful. So begin to think about that in your own life. These ton mantras, they're called the 5 senses of taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell, and how you can use all of the 5 senses in your healing. So what can you bring in on all of those levels to be more conscious of healing through all of those layers, through all of those senses? And this will have even greater impact in the harmony that you're establishing and recalibrating within yourself. Okay, the second cause of dis-ease, according to the Charaka Samhita, is what is called as Pragya Parad. Now, Pragya Parad, this is my favorite word in Sanskrit, I think, because Pragya Parad translates to crimes against wisdom. Crimes against wisdom. So you know the wise thing to do, the wise choice, and you go against it. You go against yourself. So maybe that is you know that you should get to bed a little bit earlier, but you start binge watching something on Netflix. And then before you know it, it's 1 a.m. and you're tired and exhausted and then have a hard time falling asleep. So that would be Pragya Parad, an example of a crime against wisdom. You know that that's not going to serve your health and well-being in the highest and best way, yet you know what happens, it's pretty enticing Netflix special or whatever it is that you're committed to doing, or maybe you're staying up late eating pizza or drinking beer. And I'm not saying any of these things are bad in and of themselves. However, if we have habits of doing things that are crimes against wisdom, this establishes an unhealthy environment for healing to occur. And we get further and further out of balance. And the further that we get out of balance, the harder it is to come back into balance. The harder it is to make those healthy choices or those good choices, because we begin to see ourselves from a distorted lens. Conversely, the closer we are and the more in balance we're feeling, it will be easier to make those healthier choices. Does that make sense? So sometimes if we get, say, you're generally pretty good at eating and then you go on holiday and you just kind of eat whatever because you're on holiday, and you get into sort of a habit of eating foods that aren't good for you. And then when you come home, it's harder to get back into your normal or healthy eating because you're grabbing for the chips or the Pringles or the brownies or whatever it is that, on holidays seem like a good idea, but you've now become a little bit cloudy in the physical and maybe even in the choices mentally and emotionally as well. So Pragya Parad, start to pay attention to the crimes against your own wisdom, the things that you're doing that you're doing, and they're not supporting you. And in all seriousness, this can be the hardest place for people to heal. It's in changing habits. Often people are very intelligent, and they might know, like, oh, emotional eating isn't good for me, or hanging out with these groups of people doing these certain activities isn't supportive to where I want to be in my life. But recreating new habits can be the hardest and most challenging thing for people. And I think with Ayurveda, same thing. So a lot of what I'm speaking and what I will teach you might seem just like common sense. It's because it is. Ayurveda is very common sense based. And you might say, oh, well, I know that. And you might know it, but what are you doing? What are you implementing? What are you integrating? And what are you embodying? Because Ayurveda isn't useful unless we live it, unless we embody it. And you don't have to, all of a sudden change everything on a dime, but to slowly weave in some of these ideas, weave in the consciousness, weave in like, oh yeah, here's where I'm kidding myself, or here's where I'm not being honest with myself, so that slowly, naturally, and organically over time, you can make these changes that become sustainable and that become anchored in your being. Okay, the third cause of dis-ease is Parinama. Now, Parinama is the transformation or decay due to time and motion. And we have two types of time. You may have not considered this before or known this before, but there's more than one type of time. There's linear time, and linear time is linear. And we have biological time. Now, biological time is malleable. Biological time is influenced by how we're thinking and feeling. It is influenced by motion and movement. So we could call that vata. So air and ether, that tornado, that wind can come in and accelerate biological time. So we literally age faster. And you may see that. You may see people that live with great deals of perceived stress that somehow physically start to look like they age faster. And vice versa. You might see some people that look like they barely age at all, that there's a youthfulness and an ease about their way of being, about their perception of life, maybe even a childlike wonder in the way that they relate to life. So Parinama it's beautiful to awaken to this idea that, oh, well, I can influence my biological time because it's mirroring my perceptions. So if I have a perception, even about time, like I never have enough time, or I'm always stressed out, or life is hard, or I can't make money, if we're living in this victim stance that creates a lot of mental, emotional distortion and stress and anxiety and overwhelm, we will age faster. So here's just a great way when you start to feel the stress rising to remember your one tool for slowing down your aging process is to notice how you're perceiving your life and yourself and stress. and you can begin to shift and influence the biological time. Pretty interesting, right? So slowing down our breathing, yoga has known this for thousands of years, that as we slow the breath down, that helps us shift from the sympathetic, from that stress response, to the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. And so the slowing down of our breath, and that breath being the bridge between the mind and the body, also allows us to go, okay, I'm slowing my breath down and I'm slowing my thought patterns down. Ooh, and all of a sudden I'm consciously relaxing through my physical body. Isn't it interesting that I'm feeling better? Instead of going through our life bracing, contracting, and this creates a quickening of the cellular impact. So meditation, relaxation, conscious breathing, yoga, whatever we're doing to slow it all down is going to support you in really, really profound and beautiful ways. Okay, so those are the 3 causes of disease according to the Charaka Samhita. We've got the unwholesome conjunction of the senses with the objects of their affection. We've got Pragya Parad, the crimes against wisdom, and we've got Parinama, where we're understanding that transformation or decay are due to motion. So the faster we go, the faster we're going to decay, essentially. All right, so take a moment to breathe in deeply, to slow things down right here and now, to allow this information to settle in. You can come back to this at any time to revisit it, to anchor it in, and to allow the understanding to start to percolate within you. Because these concepts, even looking at these 3 causes of what causes our disease, when we start to look at what we're doing in our own life that is contributing to us moving towards disease or away from it, is very, very helpful. All right, much love, and we'll see you in the next video. Namaste.